Shane Street South. Today we're making one of my favourite foods, and Mark is going to tell us a little bit about that. Mark, what are we making today?
So it's like a rip-off Nando's. So it's rip-off Nando's. So it's just simple: chicken breasts, Nando's dry rub, Nando's hot sauce, sweet potato wedges, and a garlic aioli. First things first, we're going to get the dry rub onto the chicken. You heat the oven to about 200 degrees. Okay. The chicken's, just let the chicken marinate a wee bit in the oven for 200 degrees for about 30-35 minutes. So the wedges, I'm quite particular about it. So I've prepped them, but what I normally do is I keep the skins on, skin side on, and I dip.
Does that make it nice and crispy?
Yeah, I dip each skin into the oil. So then whenever they come out, the skins are nice and crispy and these bits are soft. My story is quite different to a lot of others because I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer in November 2017, but in July 2017 I was diagnosed with a chronic neuromuscular autoimmune disease called myasthenia gravis. Essentially what it is, it's I don't know how to explain it, it's sort of, I think the symptoms are sort of similar to like MS, that kind of stuff. But how I noticed it, I was standing in the shower. I was working out in Germany. I'm an electrician. I was working out in Germany and I came home and I was standing in the shower and the water was hitting me in the eyes. You know, you're standing under the tap, the water was hitting me in the eyes. I couldn't close my eyelids. And then over a period of about 2 weeks, like I was going to the kitchen, getting a glass of water and the glass was falling out of my hand. And then it sounded like...
So like all your kind of touch in your nervous system and stuff was just like, I didn't really know what was going on?
Do you know what it's a bit like? If you've ever been, you used to train, but do you know whenever you're like trying to get one last rep and then it's just nothing?
There's no strength?
There's no strength.
Yeah.
So over a period of about 2 weeks, it got worse, way worse, and I ended up in hospital, hospitalised, pretty much paralysed. I didn't know what it was, but then I was in a wee side ward. I was lying in the hospital bed and I couldn't speak. I had double vision. I could move a wee bit, but I wasn't mobile. I was just lying in the bed. My neck muscles, I remember my neck muscles trying to lift my head, and my head just kept hitting the pillow. And then the neurologist, she came in. There was nobody with me at this stage. She came in and she told me, you have a thing called myasthenia gravis, and you have it for life and there's no cure. And this is your life. Pretty much this is your life now. I remember lying in the hospital bed and I had a bit emotional talking about it, but I remember lying in the hospital bed and it was terrifying. I remember thinking, like, I was only 24 at this stage. It was back in July of 2017. I remember lying in the hospital bed thinking, like, no way. Because I've sort of went through my life and I've never wanted to be a victim.
Yeah.
Ever. I know nobody wants to be, but I never wanted to feel afraid or, I don't know, I just never wanted to be a victim. I've always been very much if somebody tells me you can't do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Very strong will, and that comes across. That really does come across. But I think being told that in a hospital when you're 24 years old, like we said already today, like your life is only just beginning.
Yeah.
And that probably, I can't imagine how scary that would have been for you.
It was sort of like, you know, you hear people being locked in, that kind of thing, only it wasn't as bad as that. I was able to make some noise and I was able to see, but it was just completely double vision.
And how long did that last?
So in the hospital, it was probably like that for 4 or 5 days. They had I remember actually talking about this, they had to tape my eyelids closed at night time because your eyes start to, sorry mate, 2 seconds, I'm going to put these in.
Yes, let's get these in the oven actually.
Your eyes start to, if you don't blink, because I couldn't have the strength in the muscles to blink.
They dry out, isn't that right?
Yeah, and you get some sort of infection in your eyes. So they had to tape my eyes closed at night time. And anyway, they told me that they've got medication for it, but we're not sure if it's going to work. So there were so many uncertainties. So I'm lying there, can't move, can't speak, can't do anything. But anyway, thankfully the medication worked. And I ended up, at one stage I was on 28 tablets a day.
No, I know how that feels.
Like things to suppress your immune system.
Yeah.
And then these other, but there's no, anyway, they don't know what causes this. It can happen to anybody from 9 to 90. It's just one of these things. Essentially what it is you imagine if, I want to do a demonstration here. You imagine if this is your hand, right?
Yeah.
And this is your brain.
Right.
You've got a thing called a neuromuscular junction in your brain, okay? So you send a signal, your brain sends a signal to move to move your hand.
Yeah.
In here you've got a wee junction. There's a chemical in there called acetylcholine. But what my immune system was doing was seeing this as a foreign substance and attacking it. So it's an autoimmune disease. So they don't no idea.
Your body's basically attacking itself.
Your body's attacking itself. So that signal wasn't getting to my hand. So that's the reason why it was just nothing.
Do you know, it actually, going through something like that, it almost makes you so grateful.
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
So I'm sure your feelings whenever you were lying in hospital and going through all that, I can't imagine, because I really haven't been there, and there's probably very few people that can properly relate to your experience. But I think that it's honestly incredible that you're able to come out the other end of that.
You see, that was only the beginning.
That's
only the beginning, so it gets. So whenever I was in hospital, they did a CT scan on my chest, and it flagged up that I had a tumour beside my heart. So there's a thing called, it's close enough to your heart, it was a thing called a thymoma. So your thymus gland is all linked in with your immune system.
Yeah.
There's been evidence to suggest that people who have got this disease have enlarged, what they call enlarged thymuses, which is a gland in your chest. But just so happened mine was malignant. Mine was cancerous. So I got out of hospital, and then I got a phone call to come back up. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? Because I was just grateful to go out the door. I was like, happy days, so I can walk again.
It seems like one thing after another at this point.
I was like, happy days, I can walk again, get me out of here. So the phone call to come back up, and then I got told that you have a tumour beside your heart. Now, they never mentioned the word cancer. Because I was sort of like a very happy-go-lucky kind of guy. It's like, sure, we'll see how it goes. And I never mentioned it was cancer, but anyway, I had to get an operation probably 4 weeks later. And they cut me from here to here and broke my sternum and opened your, it's I don't know what I eat, but it's rough, but they opened you right up and took the tumour out. Now, they hadn't mentioned the word cancer at this stage.
Still? So was it almost like they bypassed the biopsy stage and just took the whole thing out as a biopsy?
Yeah, essentially.
Just while we're chatting here, what is it you're doing now? Just chopping up some garlic?
So we've got our mayo, and I'm going to dice up some garlic, put garlic into the mayo, a bit of lemon juice.
Amazing.
And then you dip your wedges into it, it's awesome.
Oh, this is going to be a nice one to try.
Yeah.
So they had you opened up, and I experienced anaesthetic for the first time there in July. Oh my goodness, it was not good.
Rough. It's
I kid you not, I woke up and thought someone had sliced my throat open. I didn't remember.
They did?
Well, I know. Oh, for goodness sake, you're hilarious, aren't you? I thought I had. I literally thought I had been attacked. I didn't remember I had cancer. I didn't remember why I was in hospital. So I literally was like, I freaked out. They had to pump me with morphine and calm me down because apparently they didn't give me enough of the anaesthetic. So you
didn't wake up, did you?
Huh?
You didn't wake up.
I didn't wake up halfway through.
Oh my God, imagine
I didn't, but I felt an awful lot of pain. An awful lot of pain. How was your experience? Because yours is probably flipping tenfold compared to mine.
Whenever I woke up, I couldn't breathe. So I think my operation was quite long. Whenever I woke up, I couldn't breathe. It felt like fire, like your lungs were on fire, but it also felt like somebody was strangling you. So whenever I woke up, I remember my eyes opening, and just met with instant pain. And I was doped up at this stage on morphine and heavy pain medication. I could still feel it. So
wow.
So I had the operation, and then the day after the operation, there's still no mention of it being cancer yet. The day after the operation, there was like a mini heart attack because of complications from the operation. So I never knew this, but your heart's in some sort of sac, right? It's not, your heart just isn't in your chest, apparently it's encapsulated in some type of sac.
Why have I never been told this before?
Me either. But I think what happened was because of the swelling had caused the, like, you know, that dum,
yes.
caused the what do you call them?
The heartbeat.
The valves, to sort of seize up. But I remember lying in the hospital bed, I felt the pain in my left shoulder and right up into my neck. And I was like, oh my God, there's something wrong here, and I had cold sweats. And I said to the nurse, and she was like, wise up really, it's only a bit of pain. And I was like, I'm telling you now, there's something seriously wrong here. Then one of the other nurses came around with the ECG machine. You've probably had it loads of times, so they stick the wee pads on you. And then she hit the panic alarm button. And then, I don't really remember much after that. I know it would be good for a good Hollywood story if it flatlined all, but I don't know. I just remember waking up.
If you flatlined, and she's like on top of you with the thing. It's probably not funny, but I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, at least we can laugh about it now.
Yeah. So they, so they took my, just 2 seconds, what time did I put that on it? 06, so about 20 minutes. Yeah, so they took, what was I going to say? Yeah, so they took the tumor out, and then I got called back up to the hospital, and I remember the consultant was quite blunt. Yeah. He's a nice guy and all, but he was...
All of them seem to be very blunt.
They talk as if it's changing the tyre in a car. You know, they don't really understand it. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I completely understand what you mean.
Anyway, you've got cancer. Anyway, I'm way all the best. You know, and it's all very... But anyway, he says you might want to sit down. So we sat down, he was speaking to me differently, and I was like, something's not right here. And he says, yeah, what we took out of you was cancer. And see, I couldn't remember another thing he said.
Were you by yourself?
No, it was with my dad.
With your dad?
I cannot remember not one thing he said after that. Because it was just, I lost one of my friends to cancer earlier that year. I think it was earlier that year. So it was a bit like, I've spoken to a lot of people about this kind of stuff. Whenever you probably know yourself, whenever you hear the word cancer, you're like, that's me, I'm done.
Do you know, it's really nice chatting to you, Mark, because you have been through multiple different scenarios.
All in a very short space of time. That was within, this is all within 4 weeks, all this happening.
But what I really like about it is that you went through all that, and it's really nice for other people because they can relate to it, because there's not many people, yes, there's people who have been through one kind, and it's incredibly difficult to do that, but whenever a different issue comes up, it's like, right, my body seriously is just not wanting to play ball here. Yeah. So there's almost like a different fear, if it makes sense. It's like a serious fear of death because it's just not doing what it's supposed to do. I
was kind of in denial that I even had cancer. I was and all this stuff had happened to me. Because there's an expression, nails that stick out get hammered. And I always wanted to be, I didn't want to be the talk of everything. Even when my friends were asking me, where are you going? After going for an operation. Oh, it's nothing to me. I was penning everything down. Yeah. So I didn't want to be the talk of the centre of everything.
You didn't want people to worry.
Yeah. Well, that plus, I don't know. I've never in my whole life ever wanted to be a victim. Even from a very young age, I've always been very reactive as a person. So if somebody was like, even as kids, if somebody was like trying to pick on you or somebody, I was always very reactive because, and it's nothing to do with being like the tough guy or anything. It all stems. I don't understand now. It all stems from fear.
Do you know what, it's interesting that you've said that, because even talking to you for this past 20 minutes, you can tell that so many of your walls have came down from that experience and from going through that. And it's almost like, do you know what, it's okay for me to feel this way. It's okay for me to talk about my feelings and the mental health of everything. And it's something that I think is really, really important to highlight, especially in this series of videos, is that you'll understand that mental health, while going through something like this, I can only imagine some of the thoughts that went through your head when you're lying in that hospital bed, unable to move. You know, and it's just sort of taking it and turning it around. And one thing I really wanted to ask you, and this is something that I kind of wanted your advice on. So you know that I was into training before the cancer and everything, and I always see you on Instagram and online getting involved and working out. How did you get yourself from the point of being in a hospital bed, hardly able to move, to exercising and actually starting to really enjoy it again after all that? And
I was introduced to Simon from Young Lives versus Cancer. I didn't want anything to do with him. And I actually think I told him that. Right? I actually was like, listen, mate. Inside I was crumbling. I really couldn't cope. But I'm a man. Men don't talk about their problems. My whole life it's man up. You know, you're stronger than this. Like I'm 6'7", big guy. You know, man up, really. This was my sort of thought process. So whenever Simon came and offered me this help, I was like, listen, take yourself off. I don't need no help. But inside, I was like, really struggling. Then he told me about a CrossFit program for young adults post-cancer treatment. He sent me a message saying, do you want to come? I was really reserved because I had this stereotypical idea of turning up and everybody being sick and looking sick.
I wonder if that's what I've thought this whole time.
But it's not. You see now, like I've been part of that program for a couple of years now, but they're all absolute. Hey, this, I'm full of quotes, right? The worst stories create the strongest people, and these guys don't moan. They're just warriors. Okay, they aren't at the elite level of the sport, but you see that mentality of because of their cancer experience, because of their life experiences, that they're just all warriors. They just got it in them.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's an amazing way of looking at it. Amazing way of looking at it. How is everything looking in the oven? I was just like wondering there.
It and see.
So Mark, let's just talk quickly about the surgery. So you had your surgery.
Yeah.
What happened then?
So I had my surgery and I was in hospital for 2 weeks and was on really heavy pain medication. Really heavy pain medication when I was in hospital, and then whenever I got out of hospital, yeah, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I will talk about it.
Okay.
Whenever I got out of hospital, they gave me heavy pain medication. It took me roughly a year to recover fully. Like they said to me, it'll take you roughly a year to recover fully physically.
Yeah.
But I was sort of abusing the prescription pain medication, not because of the physical pain, but because of
the mental.
The mental. It was just my whole world had just collapsed.
Yeah.
Everything had just hit me all at once, and you know, I just couldn't cope.
And I think that's a side of it that is really important to talk about, because it can be very easy to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Very easy.
In hindsight, I took the easy way out, because you know, you could take a tablet and you'll feel okay for a while, and then take a tablet. But then eventually, what happened was my girlfriend came in, and I was out of it, like, and she says, "Oh my God, look, the state of you," and then she took the tablets off me, which is what I needed. And then see, for like the next week of my life was just
hell. The
worst week of my entire life.
Yeah.
Now, it was my own fault. I was abusing them and taking them when I shouldn't have been, but I didn't. There was no other way. There was no other way out.
Yeah.
So I mean.
Yeah, I get that.
So.
I do. Just before we move on, do you want to just pop the chicken out?
Yes, I think we are done.
Do you know it's something?
And even if this is nice meal, you're going to be like, "Oh my God, that looks awesome."
Do you know what? I will tell you to your face if it's disgusting or not.
No, you won't.
I will. I promise you I will.
Right, okay.
So it's really great. I'm really glad that you talked about that, because whenever you are going through certain things, it can be very easy to take the easy way out.
Yep.
And whenever you have cancer, it's almost like you've kind of got a ticket in a weird way of being like, no one can question that I'm not in pain right now. So I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I really do. I fight against the painkillers because I do know how dangerous it is.
Yeah, 100%.
I really do. But there's some days when you do need to take them to get through the day, and there's other days where you're like, do you know what? I don't need them.
Yeah.
So it's just knowing the balance and knowing when to say no and to stop. But obviously your mental state at that point, you didn't have the strength to say no.
I was a mess. My whole world had collapsed. I didn't know where to turn to. I had always had that drive. I was like, I'm in trouble here. I need to get out. So I need to find a way to. I don't know how to explain it. But whenever we first went to CrossFit, I found it for me very therapeutic, because it was almost like it was a way to vent. It was like screaming.
Yeah.
Like, because CrossFit is probably arguably one of the most physically demanding sports in the world, and
I love watching the CrossFit games.
How
amazing is that to watch? It's so cool.
That's pretty much me and Simon. That's what we do.
That's used to in a nutshell.
I found myself in an environment where everyone accepted me for who I was.
Yeah.
I wasn't being judged.
And you're pretty good at it.
Well, let's try to be. It's not hard. I'll try to be, but there's no egos. There's no judgment. It was just, and I was always very confident knowing that I had a team of people around me there. It's not, we don't go and talk about cancer.
Yeah.
We go there to work out, and we're a team.
I'm sure you've missed it with COVID, have you?
Massively, because it's like my medicine. I used it.
It's almost like you swapped it out for the painkillers.
100%, yeah. Because I'm always chasing that feel good high, but only this time it's like see, even now, I don't drink. I don't take anything. I try to stay away from chocolate and all. I try to stay away from things that's instant gratification because.
Yeah. You know it's something you struggle with.
I'd rather go out for a 5k run, and then during the 5k run, you're like, oh my god, what am I doing this for? My legs are sore, and then you're just moaning.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But then afterwards, you're like, you know what? I earned that. I feel good.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm going to sit here and eat all these quality street, or I'm going to have a few beers, or I'm going to, because it's just, for me, it's not good.
It really does seem like you've trained your brain in a really specific way, and from my own point of view, because I struggle with a lot of things myself now, and it's so admirable to meet someone who has been there and who came out the other end, and it gives me hope. And
I suffered with panic attacks as well, about 3 or 4 months into the program. I thought I was getting better, and then out of the blue, it was just like boom, started having panic attacks. And then
how was that when you hadn't experienced it before?
So, essentially, probably the easiest way to explain it to anybody, it's like, imagine we're standing here now, right? And then next thing you know, there's a tiger, like backing you into a corner. See that feeling of taking your breath?
Adrenaline, like
It's
almost,
like your fight or flight, see that feeling of taking your breath away?
Yeah.
And you just can't explain it, and then you start thinking into it and buying into it, the thoughts of it, and you, which makes it worse.
Yeah.
And it just cripples
so
you.
the more you try to control it, the worse it gets.
It just cripples you, and I didn't know why this was happening to me, and then it was really suffered badly with depression too. But then Simon recommended that I go and see a psychologist, and I was like, listen, I'm not mental. I'm not seeing a psychologist. I'm only people who are like nuts go and see psychologists. This is my sort, because of probably the stereotype that comes along with it.
I think it has a lot to do with upbringing as well.
Yeah.
Because I would have a very similar mindset to that, and it's almost like before cancer, I would say I was like quite close-minded in a way, and my experience of everything, I just hadn't experienced much, and now that it's happened, you sort of open up your mind to so many different things. But depression is something that, just before I was diagnosed with cancer, my doctor literally called me one day, and he could tell in my voice, he was just sorting out like regular medication, and he could tell in my voice that I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And he was just like, tell me how you're feeling. They ask all the questions they normally ask. And they're like, you can either wait and talk to someone, or I can write you a script now.
Yeah.
And it was almost like an overnight click of the finger. It was so weird, and it's hard to admit that.
But it was the most difficult coming out. I don't know if coming out's the right word, but coming and actually talking about it.
Acceptance of it, I guess.
was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, because I had this idea of everyone was going to be judging me, and I was weak. You know, I'm not a man. You're not a. I don't know, maybe, but then it's only now I realise that it actually shows. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but it shows like strength of character.
It does.
Because it takes to be stronger to actually say, you know what, there's a problem here.
I'll tell you this, whenever I went on antidepressants, I mentioned it to my dad about 6 months later, and he was like, what are you taking them things for? And I feel like that's like a very West Belfast sort of mentality, where it's like, you don't need any medication. And I think that's the older generation in a lot of ways, because back in the day they were just told to get on with things and not to complain. But we live in a society today where we are talking openly about these things and being honest about it, because we need to be honest about it. It
needs to be, because you see, there's still a massive stigma surrounding mental health.
We're going to change that though.
I don't want to hit with so many figures, but you see, according to the World Health Organization, approximately, I think it's over 800,000 people a year take their own lives. That equates to about one person every 40 seconds.
So as we've been standing talking.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that if you need to get access to mental health services in this country, don't get me wrong, see, once you get there, they've saved so many lives. Their work they do is absolutely unbelievable, but it's getting there.
I think
it takes 60. It took me, by the time I said I'm in trouble here, and I really was in trouble. Simon, I'm not just saying this, but Simon saved my life. Truthfully, and I don't say that lightly, but he did. I would very strongly say that I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for Simon.
I don't think a lot of us would be here today if it wasn't for our social workers, because of the work that they've done, and the amount of support, the amount of messages I got that I didn't even have the energy to reply to at the time, but it was just what I needed to hear. And they don't expect anything from you.
No.
They just have a hand there for you to hold whenever you need it.
Yeah.
And that is something that it's incredible, and it can only get better, you know, and will hopefully make it better.
Hope so, because for you to get access to mental health services, it took me 60 days. And that was Simon pushing it. That was my clinical nurse specialist. She was pushing it as well. And by the time I registered that I'm in trouble here, till I seen somebody, was 60 days. And a lot of people don't have 60 days. You know, it's
60 days is a very long time.
What would happen if you were having a heart attack right now? You know, you need to go and see somebody like now.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And it's, I don't want to get too political, but it's not good enough.
It isn't.
It's not. But
this looks amazing.
I mean, I don't know what it's going to taste like, right? But
right, let's get this plated up.
Let's see. See how the garlic's maybe not that good.
Oh, that presentation though. Amazing.
And, you know, off camera, see him, it's not nice, just say it's nice. Wee scooper somewhere over here.
Mark, I'm not joking, I really needed this chat today. It's been great.
Thanks very much for that.
Thank you for sharing all that, because you didn't have to.
The thing is, the reason why I'm so open about it is because there's too many people, I know this sounds all very cliche, right? There's too many people still suffering in silence who are maybe too afraid to speak out. And by me talking about it, is even able to help one person.
Well, you've helped me.
Well, then,
There we go, your job's done for the day.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
And thanks very much, mate.
Can't wait till our next chat.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Amazing.